Hello mysterious person behind the screen and happy 2023. Before we kick off this year's content on the channel, I wanted to do what I did last year and take a look back at the pop culture that got me through 2022. The music, the games, the films, the TV, the books, anything like that. Now just like last year, keep in mind that the stuff I talk about here won't be stuff that strictly just came out in 2022. It'll be stuff that I experienced throughout last year that really defined the year for me, that when I think of 2022 I think of this certain film, game, TV show, song, whatever. I actually really struggled to nail down some things I really wanted to talk about in this video without it being 5 hours long, but I wanted to spotlight a lot of these pieces of content because so many of them deserve such a shout out, and yeah, I just love talking about the stuff I love. So let's get started. This was my 2022 in pop culture. So I kickstarted the year by watching a film that I really wanted to watch for ages. I'm a huge Sam Raimi fanboy, as most of you will know. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I'm absolutely Raimi mad. So it was really about time for me to finally check out Darkman, and I absolutely loved it. Sam Raimi couldn't make Batman or Dick Tracy, so he thought, well, I'm just going to create my own superhero, and we got Darkman, and it is brilliant. It's everything you expect from Sam Raimi as a director, coming off of the Evil Dead trilogy. And if you're a fan of the Raimi SpiderMan trilogy, you'll notice a few little kind of precursors to that in this. So if you're a fan of those films, definitely give the first Darkman a go. It's absolutely ballistic, it's so violent, but it's also so funny and so entertaining and so much fun, and I highly recommend Darkman if you've not seen it and you're a Sam Raimi fan like me. Also in January we got the long-awaited Scream 5, or just Scream. Yeah, I really wish they had just called it Scream 5. I get it, it's a big lampooning of legacy sequels and all that, but at the same time, it's Scream 5. Everyone knows it's Scream 5. Scream 5. So in the run-up to this film, I of course rewatched the first 4 films and then basked in the glory of this new one, and I really enjoyed it. It's not my favourite of the series. In fact, it's actually second to least favourite for me, but it's still a cracking film, which kind of goes to show how consistently good the Scream franchise actually is. The fact that the whole thing is essentially a cautionary tale on toxic fandoms was so satisfying to watch. I was a little skeptical going in, but the Radio Silence team really impressed me with what they did with this, and I cannot wait to see what they do in Scream 6. Then in February, I went on a binge of a director whose work I had experienced very little of in the past. If you watch my 2021 video, you'll know 2 of his films were in that one. But this year, so for Christmas 2021, I got all of this director's films on Criterion Blu-ray, and so I went on a big old marathon binge of Wes Anderson. And I managed to watch nearly all of his films in this month, apart from his latest 2, Isle of Dogs and The French Dispatch. At the time, they weren't streaming on anything, and I didn't want to buy them physically because I knew at some point Criterion were going to get around to releasing them, so it really would just be wasting my money. But now both of them are on Disney+, so definitely in the next couple of weeks I'm going to get to them and finally finish Wes Anderson's filmography. I absolutely loved going through these for the first time in February and March. Most of them for the first time. I had already seen Rushmore, and it's kind of hard to do this with the angle I'm at, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Moonrise Kingdom, but I hadn't seen any of the others. So I started with Bottle Rocket, a very much a proto Wes Anderson film. It's very different to anything that he did after that, and he's very much still finding his feet as a director, but it's still really entertaining, and it's got a very kind of quirky style that's very much his own, which, you know, makes it a lot of fun to watch. Then Rushmore, I had already seen this film and I loved it, and I loved it even more the second time. The ending of this is an all-timer for me. I absolutely love the ending to Rushmore. It's a brilliant film and held up just as good on second viewing. This one I didn't know what to expect from, but it ended up becoming not just one of my favourite Wes Anderson films, but also one of my favourite films in general, The Royal Tenenbaums. God, I love this film. Genuinely, this was such a rewarding viewing experience. It was definitely, you know, every year I sort of have a film that I watch and I go, that really moved me, that really kind of stuck out to me, that's going to be a new favourite. And this year there was actually an abundance of them. So many scenes in this that have become instant favourites. The whole story was fantastic, the cast was excellent. So much of this just works. Shot to the top of my Wes Anderson ranking, joint with a film that you'll see later on because I have nostalgia for it, which you can probably guess what that is. But yeah, Royal Tenenbaums, absolutely loved it. The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou is something that I didn't really know what to make of when I first watched it, but as I've only seen it once, but as I reflected on it, it has really not left my mind. Although I think it's one of his weaker films, it's quite flawed. The jaguar shark scene is incredible cinema. The emotional punch that hits you with, as I say, for someone who wasn't really vibing with the film, the emotional punch of that jaguar shark scene, So good, and I'm looking forward to giving this a rewatch, actually knowing kind of what to expect going in. Then The Darjeeling Limited, probably my least favourite Wes Anderson film. It definitely wasn't bad, I still enjoyed it, but this was kind of the one I was least invested in. I sort of started to tune out at points, and it's still a good film, it just isn't one of my favourites of his, but it's, you know, it's Wes Anderson. There's always like a baseline quality that you get with him, and that's definitely true for this. Also, this has the Hotel Chevalier short film, which is a prequel to this, and was really enjoyable. I really like that. It's only like 5 minutes long, but it's very good at setting up the world of this film. Fantastic Mr. Fox. I had already seen this obviously from when I was a kid, and I loved it, and I've got a lot of nostalgia for it. And this and Royal Tenenbaums are joint with my favourite Wes Anderson film, and this held up so unbelievably well. Watching it this year was the most I'd ever enjoyed it. It's one of my favourite film scores ever written. It's beautifully animated, incredible voice performances by all. Incredible film. Or fantastic film, I should say. Fantastic film, yeah, that's on brand, isn't it? Haha, jokes. Moonrise Kingdom, I had already watched this last year, and this played a big part in 2021 for me, but I thought I'd mention it here just in context with the rest of the films. But yeah, really enjoy this, one of my favourites as well. And then finally, The Grand Budapest Hotel. Again, really, really good, although perhaps maybe a bit overrated. This is always at the top of Wes Anderson's rankings, and I do really like it. I really enjoyed the film, but yeah, it's not really at the top of my rankings for me, but it's still incredible film. It's fantastic. So yeah, but my favourite Wes Anderson films have got to be Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, Fantastic Mr. Fox, and Moonrise Kingdom. Those are the kind of four that I'm like, yeah, those are absolutely all-time favourites now. But I really enjoyed going through his filmography. I've never really done that before, like marathon the director's work in a very short space of time, but it was really rewarding to do, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing Isle of Dogs and French Dispatch and finishing the filmography off, really. So yeah. Also about this time, Sony released the Uncharted movie with Tom Holland, which I didn't see because I thought it looked terrible. And you know, I heard it was fine. It wasn't something I was going to pay for. When it hits streaming, I might give it a go, but the casting looked way off, and I'm such a big fan of the game, so I skipped it. And instead, it prompted me to replay the entire series of games, because I love these games to bits. This one's signed by Nolan North, who was bloody lovely when I met him. I love all 5 of these games, and so replaying them for the first time in about 5 years, rediscovering the characters and the stories and how great they are as games, I got so invested in the characters again, and you know, it reminded me why I loved them so much in the first place. The original trilogy is fantastic. 4 is a great conclusion to Nathan Drake's story, and The Lost Legacy is a fantastic way of continuing the series without Nathan Drake. I really don't think you can do much better than Chloe and Nadine. So yeah, I really enjoyed replaying these games, and it was cool kind of rediscovering them almost in spite of the film. Sticking with PlayStation games, Guardians of the Galaxy for the PS5. After the abysmal release of Marvel's The Avengers last year, expectations were very low for this game. I certainly wasn't looking forward to it. I thought the trailers looked dull and boring, but when it came out, it was getting really, really good reviews. So I kind of took the plunge on it. And I'm so glad I did, because this is such a good game. The story is fantastic. The gameplay is so much fun. The way the characters are written, it's all so good, and it really hurts that this game kind of didn't do brilliantly sales-wise. I think because of the reputation that Avengers had, it kind of tanked the sales of this game and the reputation of this, and it sucks. It really sucks, because this is such a good game, and I implore you, if you're avoiding it like me, and if you've not given it a chance, please do, because you won't be disappointed. It's just a great game all round. A lot of it reminded me of like old PS2 games, in just how old-fashioned it felt, but also very modern and new, and the dialogue was fantastic, and I just loved playing this, and I look forward to returning to it again at some point in the future. Diddly-dum-doo-wee-oo, I continued my Doctor Who marathon as I blitzed through the latter end of the Pertwee era and into the Tom Baker years, and I'm now on Peter Davison's last season as I record this. So with any luck, I should have this finished by the end of the year, this 60th anniversary year. Yeah, it's taken me 3 years. I know, like, I'm seeing people on Twitter starting their own marathons now for the 60th anniversary, and people have got through, like, the first Doctor in the space of, like, a week, and I'm like, how do you have the time to do that? I started in lockdown, and it's taken me 3 years to get to the 80s. I don't know how people have the time to just blitz through these episodes, but I've enjoyed taking my time with them, and I really enjoyed going through the Tom Baker era again. I really, because it's the longest era of Doctor Who, I really thought that it would take me ages, and I thought this would be the kind of stumbling block of the watch through. This would be where the progress really halts up. But no, it was great, and I really enjoyed rediscovering a lot of favourite stories. I really find a new appreciation for season 15. That is a really underrated season. It's really good, apart from the last two stories, but for the most part, it's great. Leela has shot up to become one of my favourite companions. I've always liked her, but on this rewatch, she's such a fun character, and it sucks that they really didn't know what to do with her. But yeah, the Doctor Who watch through continues, and like I say, with any luck, by the end of the year, I should have it all finished in time for the 60th anniversary celebrations. And speaking of Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker regenerated back in October. Power of the Doctor was messy, but fun. If this era was going to end on a very messy note, then I'm glad it ended on a very messy note that was straight from the heart. And it was. You can tell that Chris Chibnall loved writing for Jodie's Doctor, and you can tell that she loved playing the character. And everything about the way they handled her regeneration was fantastic. The final line, "Tag, you're it," was perfectly suited to her Doctor. You really couldn't have got it better if you tried. Like, that was so 13 and so adorable, and just so everything that made her Doctor was present in that regeneration. Then of course at the end we got what? I'm so excited for November, and I'm so excited for Ncuti Gatwa, who got announced this year as the Doctor. Yeah, I can't believe that, we got a new Doctor this year. It all just seems to have gone so quickly, but yeah, we did, and he looks terrific, and I'm so excited to see what he does with the role, and the future looks really bright for Doctor Who, and I can't wait. 60th anniversary year. Let's go. Rewinding back to the start of the year a little bit, a little film called The Batman came out in cinemas, and it was bloody fantastic. Matt Reeves' dark, noirish take on the Caped Crusader with Robert Pattinson's brooding performance was excellent. I really enjoyed The Batman. I've only seen it the once, though. I do need to rewatch it. I think because it's so long and it's quite a... Well, it's a very downbeat film. You have to be in the right headspace for it, but it was really good. And the note it ended on, where Batman is as a character by the end of the film, is so exciting and so hopeful and so optimistic, and I'm so excited to see the second one and the third one, and just to see what happens with this version of the character. And I'm really excited to see where they take it. At the end of this film, he is in a better place than when he started the film, and he's sort of found himself a little bit. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's next for this character's journey. So Matt Reeves, The Batman, loved it. Great film. And speaking of great films, one of my favourite cinema trips of the year was to go and see Joachim Trier's beautiful, gut-punching, life-affirming The Worst Person in the World. My local cinema were only showing it for a very brief period, but I knew I wanted to check it out. It's actually the first foreign film I've ever seen in a cinema, so that I can check that one off the list. If this were a 2022 release, it would absolutely be my favourite film of the year. It's such an excellently written drama about life and love and romance and all the messy, complicated feelings that come with it. And I'm sure that it's only going to hit me harder as I get older. It's just one of those very from-the-heart films with some incredibly creative filmmaking that... Okay, minor spoilers. The scene where Julie takes mushrooms is terrifying. It's such a fucked up scene, like the surrealism and the hallucinations and stuff. It is absolutely terrifying and so fucked up and weird, but it's in the same film as the scene where she runs out into the street, and it's so like hopeful and joyful, and you really just have to experience the film yourself to get the full impact. But needless to say, this hit me like a ton of bricks, and I absolutely loved it. The Worst Person in the World. It was also around this time that the UK got Everything Everywhere All at Once, the little film that's getting so much praise, and now that we're at the start of 2023, we're about to enter Oscars season. This is getting so much buzz, and rightly so. It's my favourite film of the year. This is why I love movies. Everything about this film is why I love movies. The creativity, the passion, the storytelling on display from everyone involved in this is second to none. It is a stunning film. It's so batshit mental and so much fun, but also you will get emotional at two rocks with googly eyes on them. It is an incredible feat of filmmaking. It is an instant classic and will go down, I think, as iconic. You know, the parts of it have already become very big in pop culture anyway. The hot dog fingers, the googly eyes, all of that. And I cannot wait to see its reputation and its legacy grow. The Daniels made something special with this. When you look into the behind the scenes, like the way the VFX was done with an incredibly small team, it's got a very, even though it's an A24 film and there is obviously money behind it, it's got a very homegrown feel to it as well. Like, it feels indie, and it's just so good, and I just loved it so much. So Everything Everywhere All at Once, I've seen it a couple of times, and it's so powerful. It was a fantastic cinema experience. Yeah, absolutely love it. My favourite film of the year. Now, in April, one of my most anticipated games of the year was finally released after so many delays. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Now, from April and then into the summer, I 100%ed this. It took me so long, and to be honest with you, the 100% reward was not worth it. But it was so much fun to 100% this. I really, really liked the game overall. It was so massive, and there's so much content in here. But it was so much fun. It's the perfect evolution for the LEGO games. It's the evolution they needed, because they pretty much have just stuck to the same gameplay and formula since 2005. So they definitely needed this kind of step up and this evolution. And this was excellent. I know it disappointed some people. I think some people were definitely expecting just a remake of the complete saga. And this isn't that. It is very different. But I really, really enjoyed it. Now, in May, a certain Holy Trilogy celebrated its 20th anniversary. Yep, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, my favourite movie trilogy of all time, is 20 years old now. It's really weird to say that. I was really hoping that the first film would at least get a re-release in the cinema to celebrate the occasion, but of course it didn't. But nevertheless, on a bank holiday Monday in May, I spent that bank holiday marathoning the trilogy back to back to back, in one day, in one sitting, for the first time. I've never done that before, and it was so much fun to do, just to watch them back to back to back. I watch these films every year, so it'd be easy for me to kind of get burnt out on them almost, but no, they just hold up, and I will forever enjoy watching and rewatching these films. Also around this time, one of my favourite TV shows of the year, maybe my favourite TV show of the year, finally landed in the UK. Peacemaker Season 1. Oh, this is the real deal. I mean, when people ask me why I'm so hopeful for James Gunn's vision of the DC Universe, I point them to this show, because it is absolutely mad. It's bloody mental. It's so ridiculous. It's so over the top. But also, it takes its characters so seriously, and it believes in the characters, and it writes them with so much heart and pathos. The scene where Peacemaker dances to House of Pain by Faster Pussycat is one of the rawest scenes I've ever seen from James Gunn. It's the culmination of all this character's trauma coming back to haunt him in one intoxicated moment, and it is just heartbreaking viewing. And the way it treats the characters is so great, and the way that these guys become like a family unit over the course of the 8 episodes, and you know, the 11th Street Kids, right? It's such a great show, and I can't wait to see more. I'm assuming season 2 is still happening with all the restructuring at DC. I think it is safe to say it is. But if this is all we get, then I'm perfectly happy with it, because I really, really loved every minute of this, and I just, absolutely terrific stuff. It was James Bond's 60th anniversary this year, and to celebrate, the films all got re-released in the cinema, which was so cool. Now, I was bitterly disappointed that they never released a 4K box set for the occasion. I mean, how could you not? It's the 60th anniversary. It's the perfect chance to re-release them all in 4K on disc, but they never did, sadly. But all the showings in the cinemas were in 4K, so you at least got to experience the films in great quality. And one of my favourite things this year was to go every Tuesday night and watch a Bond film at the cinema. And although I didn't see them all, I saw a handful of them. It was a great thing to look forward to. Sadly, I missed all the Sean Connery ones. I was so gutted about that, because Goldfinger, From Russia with Love, you know, I really wanted to see these films in the big screen, but just things got in the way. So the first one I ended up seeing was on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is one of my very, very favourites, and seeing it on the big screen, seeing all of these films on the big screen that I did see was just, it was a really transformative experience for me, because they're clearly made for the cinema screen. So to see them in this scale, with the great new 4K transfer and the updated sound mix, was incredible. I also saw Live and Let Die. The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker were both incredible on the big screen. License to Kill I also went and saw, and it's probably the most I've ever enjoyed that film. It was just so investing. GoldenEye is my favourite Bond film, and so seeing it in the cinema is something I've always wanted to do, and it didn't disappoint. Tomorrow Never Dies was as good as it always is. Casino Royale. Oh, God, that film gets me. I swear, like, this is the most I've ever bought into the emotion of Bond and Vesper. It really got to me, and I think seeing it in the cinema was part of that, because I've seen that film so many times, on TV, on Blu-ray, on DVD, whatever. Seeing it on the big screen is a different experience altogether. It was just, oh, so good. And then finishing it off with Skyfall. 10 years ago, in 2012, was when I first got into Bond, and Skyfall was my first Bond film in the cinema. I'd gotten into the franchise over the course of that year, and I was hyping up Skyfall, so 10 years later, in 2022, to see it in the cinema again, it was a really kind of cyclical experience, and it was a great way of not only celebrating the James Bond 60th anniversary, but also my own personal 10th anniversary with the franchise as a whole. And that was just such a great experience to be a part of. And like I said, it was kind of the similar audience each week. So although I didn't see all of them, it was cool to see like the familiar faces, and there was kind of a guy who was taking his son to see these films every week, and stuff like that. Really great communal experience, and yeah, it was just great to see my favourite Bond films in the cinema. So now we were well into the summer months, June, July, August. The hottest months I've ever experienced in the UK. But a big part of summer for me, probably the big event of the summer, was finally getting to see my favourite band, The Killers, live in Manchester. And what a gig this was. This was so... oh, I will remember this forever. It was such a great night, and it was just the best. Like, I've waited so many years to see them live. I've never got a chance to. Finally getting that chance with my friend and being a part of this crowd. We were quite near the front, quite a full-on experience, but seeing all these songs that I've loved for years live right in front of me, and having Brandon Flowers right there belting the lyrics out, and it was just the best night. It was one of those nights that I'd be like, yeah, I'll remember this forever. This was such an incredible experience. So many funny things happened too. It was a bit of a chaotic gig. The security was awful, and so it was it was a bit of a nerve-wracking experience, but it was just, it was such an incredible event, and yeah, just finally getting to see him live was worth it. Just the absolute best night, and it was a huge highlight of the year. And supporting them was a band called Blossoms, who I had never gotten into before, but seeing them live in front of the Killers was just incredible, and they've become a band who I really, really love, and I've listened to so much of their stuff now off the back of seeing them. So yeah, I've got a new band that I love from that experience as well, and I was meant to go and see them in November. I'd booked the tickets, but unfortunately a big sort of family crisis happened, and it put a stopper to those plans. But at least I got to see them in front of the Killers. Blossoms were great. I've listened to so much of their stuff this year after that day in July, seeing them, and yeah, it was just an incredible day, and I won't forget it in a hurry. To combat the growing heat wave, I decided to get a bit autumnal, and I put on The Crow, which I'd never seen before, and has become a new favourite film of mine as well. A gothic, tragic, metal as fuck 90s film starring the late Brandon Lee. If you know what happened on the set of The Crow, you'll know it's a very tragic story. But the film has got a very melancholic tone. It's so fantastically made. And it's also really badass, and like I say, metal, and The Crow is so awesome, and I'm so glad I watched it this year. Stranger Things 4, yeah, oh god, what a terrific season of TV. This was a real communal experience during those summer months, watching Stranger Things. So they released the first bit of the season on one day, and then I think it was like 6 weeks later, they released Volume 2 of the season. After Season 3, I was a little bit like, okay, I'm still going to watch the show, but Season 3, I don't love Season 3. I think it veers at points into a bit of self-parody, and it's just like, I miss the tone of Season 1, and while I was rewatching Season 3 in the run-up for 4, I was a bit like, I wonder if they should have just left it at the first one, because that first one's so perfect. But 4 proved me wrong. Stranger Things 4 is incredible event TV. Episode 4, you know the scene I'm talking about, the Kate Bush running up that hill scene with Max, which is one of 2022's big kind of cultural moments. Everyone was talking about it. You were hearing people on the street talking about this. I was just walking past people in town, hearing these conversations about Stranger Things. Everyone on Twitter was talking about it. Everyone on Instagram. Everyone was watching it. And then, so, because of the strength of that, and how it catapulted Kate Bush back into, the charts, and she's found a whole new audience and a whole new generation of fans, which I think is terrific. Because of all that, the run-up to Volume 2... and the day of premiere of Volume 2, which I binged in one sitting, being part of that kind of communal experience of experiencing the second half of the season together was so much fun, and I cannot wait for Season 5, if only to get that experience again, because everyone's going to be talking about it, and everyone's going to be theorising and speculating, and Stranger Things 4 was an incredible return to form. Probably my favourite season since the first. Loved everything about it. I thought it was a terrific season of telly, and I cannot wait to see what happens in Season 5, the final season. Should be great. I also finally watched the Peter Cushing Dalek movies, and I finally watched them in probably the best place, in the cinema. I attended the double bill, because this year Studio Canal put money into 4K restorations of both of the films, which I have here in these beautiful collector's edition sets. I've unboxed both of these on the channel, and they are beautiful, classy, fantastic sets. All the superlatives in the world for them. They're incredible. But seeing these films in the cinema as a first-time experience was fantastic, and I went with Gav, who I do the Polarity podcast with, and really, really fun. And again, it's kind of a great way to get out of the heat for a bit. They're quite short films. They're only like an hour and 20, so altogether the screening was only sort of 3.5 hours. But it was really fun to do that double bill. And really fun films. I really enjoyed watching them, and I'll enjoy rewatching them in the future, I think. It was also in the summer that I finally finished reading Hack Slash, which, again, if you watched my 2021 video, you'll know has become one of my favourite things ever. Like, comics, it's probably the most I've ever been invested in the story of a comic. I got the 6 omnibus volumes, and it was this year that I finally finished volumes 5 and 6. I think they should have ended it at the end of Volume 5, an amazing ending. I just remember getting to that point and being so invested and literally just glued to this comic. Cassie and Vlad have become 2 of my favourite characters ever, and that final arc was just the perfect ending. It was just... I could do a video essay about it, to be honest, because it was just such an incredible way of wrapping up the story and bringing in so many supporting characters from so many different parts of the series all together, which is why I kind of find what came after with Hack Slash Resurrection and Hack Slash Son of Samhain to be quite disappointing, and I didn't really enjoy those as much, but still, I got through them, I finished them, and I'm really looking forward at some point in the future to returning to Hack Slash and rereading it and going on that journey again with those characters. Absolutely terrific. Just such well done storytelling. And if you're into horror and if you're into slashers, read Hack Slash, because it is incredible storytelling. I'm also going to mention here Miss Marvel, one of the only MCU TV shows that's really, really impressed me. Miss Marvel, at least for the first 3 episodes, was so good, and it reminded me of sort of an old-fashioned superhero tale. The show believes in its characters, and it commits to the aesthetic that it's doing. That very, the kind of cartoons, the sketches appearing on screen, all of that was fantastic, and the soundtrack, and the way it explored Kamala's religion, and it really put you in Kamala's headspace, was fantastic, and I know a lot of people were kind of bemoaning the teen drama aspect of it, but when teen drama is done well, it can resonate with so many different audiences, because everyone kind of had that experience when they were a teenager. And I like that the show committed to that teenage aesthetic that it was building. I did lose a bit of interest in the latter half of the series. I didn't think it really kept up the quality of the first 3 episodes, but the one about Partition was fantastic. And overall, I'd say the show was just really charming and cute and heartfelt. As someone who's felt very burnt out over the MCU over the last few years, it was just a really nice antidote to that, and I really enjoyed it overall. Even little things like Kamala looking in the mirror at the start of the series, and then looking in the mirror at the end of the series when she's completed her journey, and the contrast between the 2 shots. It's little things like that that I feel like are really missing in superhero films a lot these days, and Miss Marvel gave me that, so overall I really liked it. Also during the summer I played Dead Space 1 and 2 for the first time. Avoided 3 because I heard it wasn't very good, but 1 and 2, really fun, especially the first one. The first one was a fantastic game. Although the story was a bit derivative, the execution of it and the atmosphere especially that it created was incredible, and it was so much fun to go on this journey, and yeah, there's a reason why it's held up in such high regard, and I'm really looking forward to the remake. Dead Space 2 was really good as well, not quite as good as the first one, but again, a great story to go on. Giving Isaac a voice was the great move, and it was the right idea, and going on that journey again with him. There's a great ending to this game that mirrors the ending of the first one, and it's that's some tasty narrative resolution. So I really enjoyed Dead Space 1 and 2, and yeah, looking forward to the remake of the first one. So we got to the end of the summer, around September time, and Jordan Peele released his 3rd feature, Nope, and it was excellent. The first viewing was a real, like, yeah, that was interesting, and then as I've thought about it, this really hasn't left my mind since I saw it in September. It's an incredibly thought-provoking film. It's very, it sticks with you, but it's also really fun. It's a great blockbuster, but it has a lot on its mind. I love the score to this. It's very John Williams. Keke Palmer is the MVP for me. She just steals the show in this. She's so good in it. But really the whole cast are, and Jordan Peele's filmmaking is as great as ever, and just the whole commentary on spectacle. And there's so many different interpretations of certain things in this, and you can spend ages kind of diving down that rabbit hole, but I won't do that here. But please watch Nope. It's terrific. It's such a great film. It's one of my favourites of the year. I just also want to mention here a musician that I've been listening to throughout the year, who I've kind of always liked, but it's only really in the last year that I've really gotten into her stuff properly. And that's Phoebe Bridges. I think she's such an incredible talent. It kind of kick-started because she did a song with The Killers on their last album, and then a song of hers featured in Life is Strange True Colours, so she was on my radar. But then this year I really kind of got really deep into her music, and I mean, Stranger in the Alps is a terrific album. It is such an incredible album. It's so well put together, and I think when you listen to the songs kind of in one sitting, it tells a very kind of beautiful story, which I really love, and I just can't wait to see what she does next. Her songs are just so haunting and ethereal, but also can be very poppy and upbeat. I don't want to say upbeat because they aren't really, but it's yeah, she's a very unique individual, and her music is very, yeah, unique is the word. Unique is the operative word here. I really enjoyed getting into stuff over the last year. If you get a chance, watch the acoustic performance of Georgia on YouTube. There's one particular one that I'll probably put as like B-roll here or something, but it is one of the best like stripped back acoustic performances of a song I've ever heard. Like, her voice is so powerful in it, and you give that a watch and a listen, because it gave me goosebumps the first time I watched it. But yeah, really love what she's doing, and I can't wait for more stuff from Phoebe Bridges. October time, it was Halloween again, and of all the first time watches that I experienced during the month of October, one really stood out to me, and again it's one of my favourite films of the year, X. I really wanted to see this in the cinema, but unfortunately my local cinema were only playing it for about a week, and I had COVID. And it's so typical that as soon as I tested negative and was free to go out the house again, this was out of the cinema. So I missed it in the cinema, sadly. But yeah, this oh god, this was absolutely terrific. I really thought, because I was always, so it was sold as a really fun new slasher in the vein of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, based around porn, the porn industry, and it's very graphic and it's very violent, and I was like, okay, I'm on board for that. A violent slasher, great, I'm on board. What I didn't expect was to put this in and watch it, and halfway through have a giant lump in my throat, because I was like, oh my god, I'm actually really emotionally invested in this story. The themes that this touches on are brilliant. It's all about aging, and you buy into the tragedy of it, and it's such an honest, very sex positive exploration of the porn industry in the 70s, really, and how it kind of took off. And it's also an incredibly entertaining, very violent, gory slasher, and it's kind of that balance that I really appreciated. And it's just, like I said, there was one scene I was just getting really emotional during it. If you've seen the film, you probably know what it is. It's the landslide sequence. Incredible scene. Great performances by all involved. X was terrific. I cannot wait to watch Pearl, and eventually Maxine, which is going to be the third entry in the trilogy. Yeah, great film. Just please watch X, and don't go into it knowing nothing about it as well, because I went into it knowing nothing except it was a gory slasher, and I got so much more out of it than that. And there's so many surprises in there, and it's really stuck with me in a way that I did not expect it to. So absolutely loved X. Thought it was terrific. Halloween Ends came out, of course, and was very divisive, but I really liked it. And the same month, I went to For the Love of Horror, my very first horror convention, which was great. I met David Arquette from Scream, who was really nice, had a photo with him. I met Scout Taylor Compton from Rob Zombie's Halloween films, who was bloody lovely. Also met Jennifer Rubin from Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Taryn, who I have a massive crush on Taryn in that film, so meeting Jennifer Rubin was a bit like, oh. But yeah, she was really lovely as well. And then just in general, being around that much horror, which is a genre that if you know me, you know that I've really gotten into, especially over the last couple of years or so, I've really gotten into horror more than ever. Being in that environment was just terrific, and especially in October because it was Halloween. Yeah, loved it. The Swedish folk duo First Aid Kit released their latest album and their best, Palomino. Again, First Aid Kit, I've been into their stuff for a while, but this album, oh god, the day it came out, I was like listening to it front to back. It's so almost angelic. Like what those two sisters have done with this album is so kind of classy and upbeat, but also with some really tragic lyrics. And yeah, the Palomino album was just excellent and terrific, and First Aid Kit are doing some really brilliant stuff, and it's a really exciting time for them. So yeah, I just really love the album. It's my favourite of theirs, I think, overall. So yeah, loved it. And now wrapping it up with November and December, Chucky came back for season 2, really leaning into the continuity from the films, and it was so good, but so cruel. They introduced a certain character who I absolutely loved, and then what they did to her was... I was so invested in it though. This was the thing, I was so invested in what they were doing, and it was so good, and they leave it... they ended it on a Christmas episode. Chucky comes down the chimney to deliver you all sorts of fun stuff. I think I prefer season 1 just a little bit because it was a bit more focused, but season 2, god, it was good. It was so good. Just what they've done with the whole franchise, just keeping it so connected but also so accessible, is fantastic. Incredible. Loved Chucky season 2. And then finally, in December, in the midst of Christmas time, Rian Johnson gifted us with Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, the second Knives Out film. The second Benoit Blanc film, should I say, because it's not really, it's Glass Onion. It's not Knives Out 2, it's Glass Onion. Daniel Craig could keep playing Benoit Blanc forever, and I would be very happy with that. They can make 1 million in these films, and I would eat them up. Glass Onion was absolutely fantastic. It was so enjoyable, just as good as the first one for me. I think I prefer the first one slightly more, but Glass Onion was definitely not a disappointment. It was so good, so fun, so entertaining. I love the way Rian Johnson constructs these things. The way he writes his scripts is so fantastic. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it was a great way to end 2022. God, that was a long one, wasn't it? So what about you? What pieces of media did you engage with in 2022? What defined your year for you? Music, films, TV, comics, books, whatever. Let me know in the comments below. Please tell me. And please tell me your thoughts on anything I've mentioned during this list. I had to leave a lot out, but these were absolutely my favourites, and I really wanted to wax lyrical about them for you. Stay tuned, guys, for more videos upcoming. A collection update, really rattling off all the stuff I've got in the last couple of months. And some really exciting stuff on the channel going forward. I think there's some really cool stuff that you'll enjoy. So like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you in my next one. Take care now.